And they found a scholar in Hungary, in Budapest, who actually, Sanskrit scholar, who checked those footnotes.
Well, I've been nagging you the last few years. When are we going to see the book? And you've been telling me about months in Chicago and finding scholars, and you've gone about it very seriously. And so it is a pleasure to get, and thank you for giving me the what do you call this? The printer's proof copy, okay, before we got the final one. And I was very pleased to read what you said at the very beginning about, well, I wasn't the only person who asked you, I'm sure, at that time, 7 years ago, so what are you intending to do? It seems your mother also asked you, so what do you intend to do? And you said you'd go writing this book about the Mahabharata. And there was some lovely conversation you had with her about what stage in life you were at. But you'll be amused to hear, I asked my mother a week ago, I said, Mom, and she's a great reader, she's 88, and she reads and reads and reads. So she said, I've run out of other things to read, so I picked up a new English translation of the Mahabharata. She doesn't know about your book yet, and she'd been through it already, this new translation, for a few days, and she said, I'm very relieved to know, in a way, that human nature hasn't changed since the time of the Mahabharata. Because otherwise, she said, I had this feeling that we've deteriorated, we are worse than the beautiful ages of the past where, we were all very pure human beings. We are just the same, she said. Greed, confusion,
envy,
avarice, envy. It was all around then.
That's
right. What your book has been exploring.
Well, that's correct. Arun, I came to this. I took early retirement from the corporate world at the age of 50. I ran P&G in India, and then I had gone to the world headquarters where I was managing director for strategic planning. And finally, when I reached 50, I persuaded my wife that, look, it was time now to go back home to India to do something else. And she said, but how will we live? And so I had to sit down and explain to her that the savings we had, as long as our needs were limited, that we could make a life. And of course, when I came back, I traveled in the country, and out of those travels came India Unbound. And once India Unbound was finished, I had a great sense of that here I had written a book which projected the economic rise of India. But around me, I was seeing tremendous failures, moral failures of governance. I mean, not governance of a minister being caught with a bribe in his pocket or on Telka, but it was about school teachers not showing up, about health workers, doctors in primary health centers. 2 out of 5 doctors did not show up. 1 out of 3 nurses does not show up. And the way the government, the officials behave towards citizens. And all it struck me is that there was a real failure. And it was not just a failure of institutions, but also a moral failure. So in the third stage of life, the Vanaprastha, I felt a deep melancholy. And that's partly what drove me to go back. And I said, I've read the books the Western books, like all we do. We go to English medium schools, we read Plato, and we read John Stuart Mill, but we don't read our own classics. And so I decided that that's what I wanted to do. And my wife thought that it was a midlife crisis. So she says it's a bit late in the day to have a midlife crisis. No, but then finally she agreed, and we decided to go to Chicago. And I became a student for 2 years. And I read the classics, and really I got caught with the Mahabharata. But I had a systematic program of reading the classics texts, the Manu Samriti, the Arthashastra, the Hitopadesha, and different classics. And from there, really, this book was born, because I did not just want to go escape into the past. I wanted the past to speak to me. And so that's why I look at under the lens of the Mahabharata, I look at our contemporary failures, our day-to-day failures. And as I said, so there's a chapter on Duryodhana's envy. And this is, of course, what's driving the Mahabharata is envy. And I look at the envy of socialism, and I look at the envy amongst the Ambani brothers, of Anil for Mukesh. I look at different aspects of envy. It's very, very dangerous, envy, because two people, the person who's envious is willing to make both worse off in order to get equal. Anyway, I'm told we have to take a break now. So let's take a break and we'll come back. So stay with us.